If you struggle with shyness or social anxiety, check out our free No BS training course with actual useful advice you can do from home. None of that just get out there nonsense. The link is in the description below. For now, let's get to today's question.
What causes social anxiety disorders, and what can you really do about it? I've dealt with social anxiety myself for over 10 years. After, eventually, coming out on the other side, I've since coached a lot of people through it, and I think one of the absolute best questions is what causes it in the first place, because that's the key. Despite all these pharmacies trying to sell you some crap you don't need, and isn't proven to work, the real cause of social anxiety is the lower levels of your brain, the amygdala, responsible for your flight or fight mechanism. It's partly one of the best parts of your brain and one of the worst. It strives to keep you alive, to get you away from danger. And when that tiger is charging at you or the lorry has clearly lost control and is barreling down on you, it's gonna make you panic. Good. But this level of your brain doesn't understand logic or reason. It doesn't understand that you're not a caveman. It certainly doesn't understand that we live in a, relatively, safe society now. And that's the problem. That's the real cause of social anxiety disorders. This lower level of your brain can freak out and panic at a perceived risk which doesn't actually exist. If you think someone is on a higher pecking order than you, maybe they're better looking, physically stronger, financially better, or sometimes just louder, your brain can read that as a threat and suddenly you're in danger. The sweating, stammering, blushing, mumbling, struggling to keep eye contact or conversation are all symptoms of the lower levels of your brain freaking the hell out and trying to convince you to leave that place. So that's the process your brain goes through, but what gets it there in the first place? Everyone has this section of the brain, but it doesn't learn the same things as everyone else. It learns based on experience, and what causes social anxiety in adults is the same as the cause in children experience. Sometimes it's earlier in life and sometimes later on. It's usually a continuous stream of learning rather than one big event, but regardless the answer is the same. So we know what causes it. How does this actually help us? Well, when we boil it right down to this learned behavioral problem, it becomes a lot easier to deal with. We can get rid of this nonsense, that idea that some people are just shy people, and the even worse. Just get out their advice and take an actual scientific approach to fixing it. Something like this: while your brain has learned that being loud and extroverted puts you in danger, we basically just show it, in a controlled way, that it's safe to be loud and talk to people. It learns by experience, so we force ourselves to recognize and understand the problem and begin teaching it that there's nothing to worry about. After a while, sooner than you might think, it just isn't a factor anymore. I do find it funny that, in a weird way, the cause of social anxiety is also the fix. While Big Pharma might be trying to sell us whatever magic bean to mask the problem, we have a way of fixing it ourselves in the long term. I will say that you're better off using something like this rather than just throwing yourself into talking to strangers. The difference is using a controlled, systematic approach instead of just diving in the deep end. Even when you understand what the problem is, you can end up making your social anxiety disorder worse by throwing yourself in headfirst because your brain doesn't know you're trying to retrain it. Every time it freaks out and you get away safely, it thinks it's kept you alive, which is why it tends to get worse by itself, not better.